Hello everyone. In the previous session we discussed about the modeling. Right? Different models we discussed like analysis model, architecture model and the component design model. In this session we will study the different approach, object oriented approach. The first approach is object orientation. Then second approach is object oriented analysis, and the third approach we call object oriented design. So what happens when we talk about the modeling means we are talking about the blueprint, right? And when we talk about the approach means we are talking about the diagrams, like which diagram we will use to show our model, right? So let's see. Okay, so here we have object oriented approach. Different approaches, 3 approaches we have. So let's talk about the first approach, that is the analysis. Then second is for the design, and third is for the implementation. Now the first approach is the analysis stage produces a software requirement specification, SRS. Basically, when you develop the software, you need one document which contains everything about the analysis. Everything about the analysis, like when you say analysis means it is like what are the requirements of the user, what type of technology you will need, what is the budget, and each and everything about the your project that you can find in the SRS. And basically SRS contains this following deliverables. First is the business process diagram, so B we have. Then we have a use case diagram. Okay, so we have a U. And the third is the class and object diagram. So what happens here, we have C. So what happens when I say that different approaches, when I say different approaches means you need to provide a diagrams, a design of your model, of your work, and for that 3 different diagrams you can provide at the analysis stage: business process diagram, use case diagram, class and object diagram. We will study all these diagrams in detail in the next unit. Then the second approach is the design phase. In the design phase, what basically we do, we design each and every component, each and every process in detail, and to display that we have a sequence diagram, then we have collaboration diagram, then activity diagram, and a state chart diagram. So in a design phase we have sequence, then collaboration, then activity, and then state chart. Again, all these diagrams we will study in detail in the next unit. All these diagrams are just like you draw the DFD. It is not similar to DFD, but yeah, we can say that the way you use or you draw the DFD, the similar way you can draw the sequence diagram, collaboration, activity, and all the others diagram. The third approach is the implementation phase. See what happens, like first analysis is done, right? Analysis means all the requirement gathering and everything is done. Now the time to design, to make a blueprint of a project. So that is for the design. And the last is the implementation, that how will you, means when you are done with your paperwork, like your website would be like will look like this, the total number of pages, then table structure, database structure, and everything. Now the time to start the coding and actual GUI design, right? That we call the implementation. So in implementation you need the diagram for the component, and as we have already discussed, see, component means if you talk about the website means your each page is your component, your each table is your component. So here you need to draw the component diagram in which you can explain that this page will work like this and data will transfer from this location to this location and all the other things. And in the implementation, after the component diagram, the last one is the deployment. Deployment means once you are done with all the work, like your website is ready, now the time to launch it, now the time to live it, right? So that comes into the deployment phase. Like in deployment means now your system is ready to use at the for the user. So that is for the deployment diagram. So see, so many different diagrams are there: business process, use case, class and object, and all the other diagrams. We will learn each and every diagram in detail in next unit. So it's very easy. So let's sum up all the points. When we talk about the object oriented, two topics we have. The first is the modeling, then we have approach. When we talk about the modeling, means we are just preparing the model. The first is your analysis model, architecture model, component model. In the analysis model, you have to focus on the existing system and the end users requirement, and based on the requirement your possible solution, right? When you say the architecture means all the components, all the interface and all the deployment structure you are talking about. And last is the component model, means all the models, number of pages if we are talking about the website. So each page, each table is your component. And when we talk about the approach, three different approaches. One is the analysis approach, means which diagrams you are going to use for different phases. Then we have a design phase, and then the last one is the implementation phase. So in analysis phase you have business diagram, business process diagram, then you have use case, and the last one is the class and object. In design you have a sequence, then you have collaboration, then activity, and then state chart. And in implementation we have component and the deployment. So this is about the object oriented modeling and approach. So that's it for this session.